Feels like we just did this, Rube.
We did.
We did indeed. That was an emergency podcast. If you haven't listened to it already, we spent almost an entire hour talking about Jason Kelce, his retirement, his speech. It was quite a day on Monday, but this is our normally scheduled Tuesday Eagle Eye presented by Nissan.
It is. And I mean, you're right. Yesterday was, and I've been doing this for quite a while. I've never been a part of anything like that. It was, I thought it was a really powerful speech. And I felt really fortunate I was able to be there for it. And, I think you always knew what an impact this man has had on the community in the city, not just football fans, but everybody. Everybody loves this guy. And I think yesterday just kind of brought that out even more. I think, just kind of seeing the reaction on social media, you realize just how vast Jason Kelce's hold on this city is and how profound it is. It's a really cool thing.
Yeah, it was quite a day, but we move on. And the Eagles have a busy week coming up next week. Free agency begins really on Monday. That legal tampering period begins, and that's really where things start to kick off. So it's crazy. Like the NFL doesn't sleep. We have free agency, and then the draft is right behind it.
Yeah, there's the only downtime is there's like 2 weeks in June. It's like the only downtime. The league is brilliant at creating things, and whether it's the beginning of free agency or the draft or the day the schedule comes out. I mean, it's all spread out perfectly and keeps us busy year round.
It does. And we appreciate it because we're trying to fill some podcasts here.
That's right.
Today we have a fun thing we're going to start off with. We're going to do offense today and then defense on Thursday, kind of preparing for free agency. We're going to assign a number value. Each of us have done this independently, but we're going to assign a number value in terms of need at each position on the roster. We'll do offense today and then defense on Thursday. And then we each picked a free agent we think could be a good fit for the Eagles if they go that route at that position. So let's start off at quarterback. We know they bring back Jalen Hurts. We know Tanner McKee is under contract. Marcus Mariota is going to be a free agent. What number did you assign to this position? And our scale is 1 is, it's not a need at all. Exactly what they have is what they should have. 10 is slam that panic button. They need an overhaul.
Yeah, I went with 1. I just don't think it's something they have to worry about right now. I like Tanner McKee, and I do think that if he doesn't show what he needs to show to be the 2 in camp, you won't have any problem bringing in a capable veteran who can get you through a game or two if Jalen gets hurt. So in the big picture, do you need Jalen to be a little bit better than he was last year or significantly better than he was? Yes. But as far as the need to go out and get somebody, not there.
Well, I went a little higher than you. I went with a 2 because they need another body at the very least. I think they want 3 quarterbacks. Even if one of those guys is on the practice squad, I think they want 3. And with the new rules, like you kind of want 3 on the active roster, knowing that you have the emergency.
Yeah, I mean, they need to add a 3rd guy, but to me, as far as it's not a huge thing who it is. It's going to be a camp body, so that's why I went with a 1.
I think it'll be more than a camp body, like I said, because I think they want someone to be on the roster.
Yeah, well, camp body is probably poor choice of words, but I guess my point is I don't think there's a significant need to spend money to allocate resources to that 3rd QB spot. So, but obviously you do need a 3rd guy, and I'm confident they'll find one. Might be Ian Book, who knows?
I like that you're arguing with me about 1 versus a 2 here in terms of the scale.
I'm not arguing, just explaining my position.
Sure, and I explained my position and why I'm right. Did you come up with a free agent name?
I went Jacoby Brissett just because of the Sirianni connection, and I think he's a capable guy. I don't, who knows how much money he's looking for. That's the thing with any of these guys. I tried to be realistic with my free agents, and for the most part, I got one high big ticket guy on Thursday that we'll get to. But I think Brissett is probably a little above what they really will go out and get. But I like him. I always liked him, and I think it would make sense.
Yeah, I think he's significantly above where Mariota was this last year. So I think he's out of their range. I went with
want to get somebody who sucks. Like I didn't want to and he's at the point in his career now. I mean, he's in his early 30s where he's not going to be starting anywhere unless it's as an emergency. So he could be. I mean, he could be out on the street in a month looking for a job. So it's possible.
Okay. Yeah, I think he's going to get a decent contract as a backup on a team where like he might compete or he might have to kind of be a stopgap for a rookie coming in. But I think he'll be out of their range. I went with Easton Stick. We talked about him back. Well, yeah, you make a face, but like we both agreed that the need level here is low. So I don't know why we would pick a high price free agent here. I like Easton Stick.
I don't think Jacoby Brissett's going to be high price, but
I disagree. We can make a side bet on that. I think he's going to get paid more than you think.
All right, we'll see.
Yeah. Easton Stick, because he has familiarity with Kellen Moore. So, and we talked about him when we went through some free agents with connections to the two coordinators. I think that does make sense at the quarterback position. You have a guy who knows the terminology, who can come in and help kind of bridge the gap. And also, he's been in the league a little bit. I think you don't want to just hand Tanner McKee the backup job. A guy like Easton Stick, you could at least have a competition. You could have them alternate days in training camp. And the hope would be that Tanner McKee, the 6th-round pick from last year, who we really liked as a rookie, wins the job and you get a cost-controlled backup for a couple years. But I like the idea of pushing him a little bit with a veteran, and I think Stick would fit that mold.
Fair.
But we're both kind of high on Tanner McKee, I guess.
Yeah, I am. I mean, I thought for what he did, for where he was drafted, what he was able to do, the growth we just saw just in camp and a preseason, he stood out to me. I was excited about the way he played.
Yeah, me too. And we've seen some shaky rookie quarterbacks come through. So to see a guy who looked competent was a nice step in the right direction.
Yeah, we've seen way too many of those.
All right, how about a running back?
I went Austin Eckler.
Oh, no, let's start with the
grade,
the number. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, obviously it depends on Swift, but I guess that's part of the equation. I think the need is moderate. I don't think you ever really need a free agent running back because you can just, I mean, I think if they were in a position where they had to go with Gainwell as the guy, I think they'd be okay with it. You saw it. I went with like a 4. Just because I don't think running back will ever be a huge need in free agency. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think we might have not communicated this well because I just meant like a need for the team, and it's clearly a need. I mean, they have, they just have Kenny Gainwell coming back right now. I think there's a chance Boston Scott returns on a 1-year deal. I think they'll monitor the situation with DeAndre Swift. I have it at a 7. I'm not sure free agency is the way they're going to attack it. I think there's a good chance they draft a running back. So you went with Austin Eckler, who has you went with that connection with Kellen Moore there, huh?
Yeah, and Nick, I reckon.
That's right. Yeah.
Eckler had a bad year this year, but I mean he's got he's been a really consistent player, good receiver. I think he's at the point in his career where he's not going to be the guy. I like the fit. You just have to kind of figure out with a lot of these guys, that decline we saw with Eckler last year was a pretty significant one. Is that indicative of his career going downhill or his ability and his skill set going downhill, or is just a bad team, a bad situation, and kind of like here with a lot of the guys. So I think he's been a really good, steady, consistent player for a lot of years.
It's funny because if you were to say his name last year, everyone would be like, holy cow, Austin Eckler. Yeah, everyone wanted to trade for Austin Eckler. a year ago. Then he has a one bad season, which like it is notable that his bad season came under the Eagles' new offensive coordinator.
That's true.
There are some fascinating names out there. I think we both agree they're not going to go and break the bank for a free agent running back. That's not.
I don't think anyone will.
Yeah, that you're probably right about that. But it's certainly not Howie's MO. I think if they did spend any kind of significant money on a running back, it would be on DeAndre Swift, who they already know and they feel comfortable with. And I don't think that's like a 0% chance that he comes back.
But you think it's less than 50%, right? I think we talked about.
Yeah, I do think it's less than 50%, but we've talked about this, but I also think that if there's an opportunity for him to take a cheap deal somewhere, he would rather do it here than a team where he doesn't know what he's getting.
Yeah, I just wonder if, and I think it might be, I think the chance might be a little higher than you do, maybe just a little above 50%, just because of the nature of running back contracts.
Mm-hmm.
Like if we start out with the assumption that he's not going to get a huge long-term multi-million-dollar deal anywhere, why wouldn't he come back? Why wouldn't they make him an offer that's competitive with what he's being offered on a smaller deal? So I think he's really good, and I think he can be a lot better. And I still think Gainwell, and I like Gainwell. I still think he's best as a 2 or a 1A, probably a 2. Yeah, I'd love to see Swift back.
Yeah, I think that would make a lot of sense. I'm going to give you a name here that fans are going to go, well, why would you even do this? But it would be a low risk, high reward. And we saw Howie do that a bunch last year. We saw him do it with Rashad Penny. Didn't work out, but there was not really a downside there either.
Right.
I'm going to go with J.K. Dobbins.
Okay.
Who missed most of last year with an Achilles tear, but he's still just 25. He was going to be the starter with Baltimore last season. I think he's the type of guy that would fit well with Gainwell. You know, Gainwell could still be that third down runner. Dobbins could be the early down guy, kind of pound the rock a little bit. Obviously, the injury concern is there, but I don't think you'd have to pay a lot of money. And I like the upside. So I went with him. I'm fascinated to see if he gets any kind of contract, and maybe the Ravens bring him back. But if they don't, I like that idea.
Yeah, I always liked him. When did he get hurt? Do you remember?
It was first game of the season.
It was opening day, right? So, if he checks out medically, it's a good name. Mm-hmm. I always liked the way he played.
Yeah. How about receiver? What number did you give, and then give me the free agent?
So we're changing the order that we're doing this now?
No, we've gone number first on
That's
the
not
first.
What you said. You said give me the – I'm so confused now. All right. You want the number. The number. So we're going overall need at the position, yes, not in free agency.
Yes.
It's an all-encompassing offseason. I think the number is an 8.
Okay.
As good as their top 2 are, it's not enough. And I think they've got to take that third receiver spot seriously this offseason, especially with, Goddard kind of not sure where he is. And, he should, if he's healthy, you'd think he'd be, back to being an 800-900 yard guy, but I don't know. So I think it's a pretty significant need.
I went 7 for a lot of those same reasons. Like, obviously you feel great about the top 2, but after that you have nothing really. I mean, you have Britton Covey, who hasn't been given the chance either, but he hasn't shown that he can be a reliable receiver in the league. He's a return guy. Everyone else is a free agent. So you have some futures guys who are on the team, but can't rely on that either. So I think there is a chance too that they might pay a free agent receiver a little bit of money to come here.
And that's that's what I'm kind of thinking with my guy, who isn't going to be cheap. But Gabriel Davis is a guy I think would really complement Devontae and AJ with his speed. And, he's not a guy who's going to catch like 4 for 40 every week, but he's going to have some huge games, and there's going to be some games where he doesn't catch a ball, but stretch the field. catch some deep balls, drop some deep balls. You saw against the Eagles, had a big game against the Eagles this past year. I think for that role, he'd be a good fit.
Love Gabe Davis. I think he's going to get really top of the market money. I think
I don't know.
A little out of the range.
He's not a one. He's like an 800-yard guy. So I'd be surprised if he gets top of the market money. I'm not sure he'll ever be a number one. I don't think that's his game. And plus, we're picking free agents. How are we supposed to, we're picking guys that that I would like to see here. So I don't want to just kind of eliminate guys that are going to be expensive. Is that the premise?
The premise is guys that fit, and part of fit is contract.
Well, I think there's going to be one or two pretty high-priced guys that Howie signs this offseason.
And look, the guy I'm going to name isn't going to be like peanuts here. I'm going to go Curtis Samuel.
Okay.
So
they're about in the same category. No,
well, I Gabe Davis is younger, so I think he's going to demand more. But Curtis Samuel's been more productive. He's been in the league longer. To me, he's more of a plug-and-play guy in the slot, which I like. And I know they're going to play AJ in there at times. I know they're going to play Devontae in there at times. But Curtis Samuel's a slot, right? He can play outside, but he most of his snaps come inside. He's been productive playing in Washington the last couple of years. He's a bit removed from his big season in Carolina that got him paid in Washington. So I think because of that, and he's 27 now, I think he'll be a little more on the cheap side. He won't be cheap, but I think that probably falls in line with where they're going to be a little bit more.
I'll take Gabe Davis.
Okay.
What else?
How about tight end?
Tight end, I think the need's pretty high. I do. I went 9, just because.
Wow.
Yeah, I think they got to take this position seriously, and especially with how much 12 Kellen Moore likes to play.
I had it at a 9, and then they signed Albert O again, and I'm back at 1, baby.
Yeah. I really think they got to get better there. And I'm a little concerned about Goddard. He just never really – he had a couple really good games, but never really looked right, even when he wasn't hurt. So he's at the age now where you're starting to – I don't know. He should be really good, but, we'll see. It was kind of a disappointing year for him from a lot of ways. But I think it's a really big need. I think you're okay if you have Jack Stoll as your 3. But I just don't think you can have like a Grant Calcaterra and a Jack Stoll as your 2 and 3. Just think you got to be better than that.
Let me ask you this. You have tight end as a higher need than receiver. Just curious about that.
Well, because they have Devontae and AJ.
Okay.
It's relative. I think getting a third receiver is really, really important. But if you're looking at it I just don't think they have enough at tight end. They went to a Super Bowl with those 2 guys and Zach Pascal, and Quez. So they have 2 really, really good wide receivers. They have 1 tight end who should be really, really good. Obviously, you're not.
They also went to a Super Bowl with these tight ends.
That's fair.
Yeah.
But I think Goddard was a lot better in 2022 than 2023, also. So I'm just a little concerned about him. He could come back and have a big 1,000-yard season, but it just seems to be a pretty big need.
So I had receiver higher than tight end, and my rationale there was I think the third receiver is just more important than the second tight end, if that's what we're really talking about here.
Yeah.
I had tight end at 4.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because I trust Dallas Goedert. I think Jack Stoll, yes, he's not giving you much as a receiver. And look, he's a free agent, but I think they'll be able to re-sign Jack Stoll. I don't think that's an issue. I think he is a good blocker. You'd like to see more as a pass catcher in that spot, and that's where we'll get to the free agent name. But if they were to run it back, I think they'd be okay.
I don't think he's a good enough blocker. I think he's a good blocker, but I don't think he's a good enough blocker to not give you anything in the receiving game.
That's probably fair. But I also think that third receiver is more important than upgrading from Jack Stoll.
Yeah. I mean, if you have two really good tight ends, it can really help you. I think they're both important. I think it really comes down to what Dallas Goedert gives you in 2024. I mean, that's really ultimately, and we don't know that. I mean, he's still in his prime and kind of toward the end of what should be his prime, but last season kind of raised some doubts, not some doubts, but some questions in my mind with him.
Sure. Give me the name.
Noah Fant.
Okay.
I think the common thread so far is all my guys have been too expensive for this. I'm going way over the cap.
Howie's going crazy right now. He's like, I can't afford all this.
Yeah, Howie's not happy with me, but then again, he never is. Yeah, I mean, I think he's just a really consistent guy who, would be good in that role. I think he's going to cost a fortune, cost a little bit.
Yeah. For everyone who thinks I'm going like bargain bin here, you're right. But I promise that won't be the case on Thursday when we talk about defense. So
yeah,
I think that's probably where they're going to spend the bulk of their money. I went with Austin Hooper, who has had a really nice, productive career. He's 29 now, so he's a little bit past his prime. But I like him because he can play in line. He has been a blocker at times in his career, but he has shown some versatility. He can line up in different places. He has caught some passes. His production waned a little bit last year with the Raiders, but I still think he'd offer a better pass catching ability than Jack Stoll, and I think you can trust him as a blocker.
Let me ask you this. He's the same age as Goddard. Do you think Goddard's past his prime?
No, but I think Goddard's the better player. I think Goddard had years where he wasn't the guy because he was behind Zach Ertz.
What do you think Zach Ertz thought when he heard Kelce say, talk about the Vontaze perfect block that he missed or that he whiffed on and said, he got crushed in this city, and deservedly so.
Yeah, maybe not. I think Zach will agree with the
premise.
What happened after that. And
yeah.
The premise. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway. I think Darren Sproles has more of a beef with Kelce right now.
4'8", Darren Sproles. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. I mean, what your gut feeling is that Goddard he'll bounce back?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think a new offense will help him. Really, the disappearance of Dallas Goedert from the offense last year is one of the more puzzling things because we didn't see it coming. I don't think it was on him necessarily. I think they were really just kind of getting the ball to AJ early, and then it took Dallas out of the offense. But man, you think back to last training camp, the two guys who stood out most were AJ Brown and Dallas Goedert, and one of those guys ended up having a nearly 1,500-yard season. The other guy had a down year. I think Dallas will be fine this year.
Okay. That's
How about
too.
Yeah, let's do offensive tackle and interior offensive line. Let's get both numbers, and then we'll get both players.
Yeah, it's I mean, as an O-line, one number or separate numbers for this?
Well, I did separate numbers, but how did you do it?
Yeah.
We can do it either way and even some of like the free agents, I think, offer some versatility. I don't know how you went there, but
yeah, I probably spent too much. Again,
Tyron Smith and
I mean, I think the number it's a tricky one. Obviously, with Kelce, it's going to create some movement, some questions, but also I think Lane's at the point in his career. I mean, he's going to be 34, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's some serious issues there, some serious questions. So I think the number I gave it was an 8, just because I think it's something they really have to address. Mulata, I mean, you're in great shape with Mulata and Dickerson moving forward. Juergens is okay. We'll see. I think he's got to make a big step up next year. But beyond that, there's a lot of question marks. Steen's a question mark. Sua and Driscoll are free agents. So I do think it's a pretty big need.
Wow, that's higher than I went. If I'm averaging, I have a 6.
Okay.
Because I look at it, I think their starting line right now will be fine with a question mark about Tyler Steen at right guard, but I think they would be okay. I think they need to add. I think they'll add definitely in the draft. That's what they do. Potentially in free agency.
Yeah, and a lot.
I think if they spent money in free agency, they would it would be because they look at Tyler Steen and think we can't play him yet. We need a guard, plug and play someone.
Yeah. Well, I got a guard for you.
Who's that?
I went with Kevin Zeitler.
I have Kevin Zeitler here too.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm. 34 years old, just steady. I mean, it will be the least sexy, expensive free agent they could sign.
Yeah. I think when you look at what point he is in his career, he's not going to be. He could be a starter, but he's not going to be a starter for much longer. I think he's a good guy to have. He's played a lot of football. Solid guy.
Really durable. Hasn't missed time.
Doesn't miss games. Has played for really good teams. Yeah.
Did you have a tackle?
Yeah, I put down Jonah Williams, but he's probably too expensive.
Yeah, he's gonna get started.
I always liked him.
I have an idea.
Yeah.
Big V.
Big V.
He hasn't been able to stay healthy recently.
Yeah.
His career has really stalled. He's been injured. He got that big payday in Detroit. It didn't really work out. But if I'm looking for a guy to come in, potentially be a swing tackle, backup swing tackle, we know he can play guard. He played guard in Detroit. He played guard here. That's a valuable piece. And now look, if Jack Driscoll's the same price, maybe you just bring back Jack Driscoll or you bring back Sua. Those guys are free agents. But we know Big V likes it here. We know he played well for Jeff Stoutland, still has a relationship with Jeff Stoutland. I don't think it would cost much because of the way things have gone in Detroit. And I know fans really soured on Big V when he had to start, but we're not asking him to do that. We're asking him to be a backup and maybe a spot starter here or there.
Yeah, I guess we're taking different philosophies here. How long do you think Lane is going to play?
2 to 3 more years.
Yeah. So, you don't really need to think about replacing him yet.
Well, if you're going to replace him, you're doing it in the draft.
Yeah. Yeah, most likely. But if you have a chance to get an unrestricted free agent who's really good, who's 25, put in 4 years, something to consider. But it's not really Howie's way.
No, I don't think it is something to consider because you have to pay him starter money.
I don't mean this year, but I think in the next couple of years. Okay. The ultimate replacement for Lane. How are you getting him?
You're drafting him.
Probably. The best left tackle in franchise history was a trade, so you can get a veteran.
Sure, but they had a spot ready.
And the best, one of the top right tackles, Runyon. So I don't think you have to draft that guy. I think Howie probably will. I
think they want to.
Yeah. Probably have a better track record signing guys than they've done okay. But
I don't know. They have their 2 tackles now because they drafted them.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know why I'm not crazy about Big V. He's missed a lot. What did he play? 4
He's missed a lot. Yeah. But we're talking about
how old is he? 30?
I don't have it in front of me. Yeah, he's
probably he was 16 draft?
Mm-hmm.
What years? He's probably 30 or 31.
He's 30. Yeah. And I know people are going to be like, why would you bring him back? Well, because he's not going to cost much. And I like the versatility and a guy who already knows the coach.
Howie loves bringing guys back, too.
He does. And if we're trying to hit what he might do,
you always have a wise thing. Yeah. All right.
That was fun. We'll do the same thing for defense on Thursday.
At least we read on Zeitler.
All right. Let's take a break. We have a lot more on the other side.
You deserve a car that thrills you, a car that puts goosebumps on your goosebumps. At Nissan, we got everything from turbocharged SUVs to 100% electric vehicles that'll make your heart beat faster. Experience the thrill for yourself and shop your local Nissan store at nissanusa.com today.
Celebrity cook Steve Martorano brings his Italian-American cooking back home to Philly. Enjoy Martorano's Prime at Rivers Casino and Steve's famous meatballs with Sunday gravy, prime steaks, and more. Make reservations at Martorano's Prime on Open Table. We just talked about free agency quite a bit. The draft coming up after that, and we know all these mock drafts are going to change after free agency because spots are going to get filled, but it's a good time to look at it now before things change, because sometimes the mock draft shouldn't change. Like sometimes I think we overvalue what happens in free agency.
Yeah, and if teams talk so much about not drafting for need, and we kind of put together mock drafts based on needs, it's kind of defeats the purpose. But yeah.
But they also lie.
That's fair.
So I went through, I have this mock draft roundup, just looking at a few options from some mock drafts around the internet. You just did your mock draft, your first one of the year. Well, your first one of the season, because you do one after the end of the season. But who'd you have the Eagles taking?
I went with McKinstry. I think I'm going to be wrong. I think it's going to be a lineman. But I just wanted to have fun and go with a cornerback in my first one, because I'll probably have to go with a lineman in my next one. I really think it's time for them to draft a stud corner. And I like Keely Ringo, and I like Eli Ricks shown some nice things, but the opportunity in this draft to land a big time stud corner, it's a good cornerback draft. I was trying to figure out how to get the guy from Toledo to slide down to 22. It's not going to happen, but I'd really like to see him get out of there with a corner.
McKinstry's fun too, because I feel like he just gets overlooked because we've known about him for so long, and he's just been really solid, been playing at a high level, and then he doesn't get to even compete at the combine. Hopefully I think I read that he's going to compete at the pro day and then get surgery. He has a Jones fracture.
Right. It shouldn't affect where he's drafted.
Yeah, I don't think so, but there's some teams will feel a way about it maybe.
Yeah. I just want to go up to a guy in the locker room and say, "Excuse me, Kool-Aid, do you have a second?"
Someone asked him at the combine. So do you know the story behind the name Kool-Aid?
Yeah.
It was, so basically, if you don't know, his grandmother gave him that nickname because he came home from the hospital and she said he had a Kool-Aid smile. So it's not even really about, like, people might think, like, maybe the kid loved Kool-Aid growing up. No, that wasn't it. But he was asked for his favorite flavor of Kool-Aid at the combine. Pink lemonade.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
There's a great song called Pink Lemonade by Charlie Chesterman. Remember Charlie Chesterman, the singer from Scruffy the Cat?
Oh, of course. How could I forget?
Great song from a great record called From the Book of Flames, the late Charlie Chesterman. Mm-hmm. Check it out. Great song.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I play it every day.
Anyway,
were you a Kool-Aid family growing up?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, probably had those little packets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Need a ton of sugar. Like, I think back and, like, there's just so much sugar in that.
Probably was. I haven't had any recently.
Yeah, gosh, I don't know the last time, but we had Kool-Aid. Huh?
They still make Kool-Aid?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's not going anywhere. We had it in, like, we would have, like, a Kool-Aid jug in the fridge. It was like a plastic pitcher, and that was, like, either Kool-Aid or, like, you're not gonna like this because you're an iced tea purist, but we would have, like, the powder iced tea mix in it was always like, it was that plastic pitcher was for the powder drink.
Okay. I'm an iced tea snob. It's true.
Yes, we know. Some other options here. Dane Brugler has a fun mock draft with a trade up for Terrion Arnold from Alabama. And he gives the trade terms here. So the Eagles would send 22 and 97 and a 2025 fourth round pick to the Jaguars for number 17. So a slide from 22 to 17, which feels realistic for Howie. And in his mock, he had Quinyon Mitchell going as the first corner to 13 to the Raiders. So Arnold with a little slide. The Eagles are always like opportunistic when a guy kind of slides past where they have him slotted.
Yeah, and my personal rule, I don't do trades in my first mock. I might do them in my next one. But we know Howie most likely is not going to pick at 22. I mean, that's just his MO. So I think the question is like, and I mean, you were at the combine, is there enough difference between, the third, fourth, and fifth corners in the draft to give up resources and move up?
Yeah, I think there is. Yeah. I think the top two are kind of going to separate themselves. And I think it's going to be Arnold and Mitchell in whatever order you want them.
Yeah.
I think Arnold has the potential to be very good. And I know McKinstry, like I feel like it's been unfair to McKinstry at Alabama because he's kind of been forgotten a little bit. And I still think he's a first round pick, but to me, Arnold has what it takes to be a top tier corner in the league. And I don't want to overrate this part of it because it'd be unfair. But at the interview rooms, like sometimes I like watching the corners because I think you need like a level. You don't need it, but I think it helps to have a ton of confidence to play that position. And he commanded the room. It was fun. It was fun when he was up there. So comfortable, so confident. And then you watched him on the field and he like plays with that confidence too.
Yeah. No, I think it's true. I think for that position and wide receiver, you got to have a little swag about you. And
it's not necessary, but like I think it can help.
Yeah, like James Bradbury doesn't. I mean, had some really good years. I'm not saying that's why he was bad this year. But
you know what? He had it in 22, and then he didn't have it in 20. No, I'm joking. But that was the reason.
Yeah, but it's fun. I mean, Slay is a great example of that. I mean, it's just makes it fun.
Len Zerline from NFL.com had a trade down to 28. We didn't get the terms here, but I wanted to include it because we know how he could trade either way. Had him trading down to get A.D. Mitchell from Texas. This would qualify as the most fun pick.
Yeah, that would be. You think he's going to? I don't know if he might not be able to trade down for him.
Look, he was really good at the combine, and teams are going to love the trades. There are better receivers, like right now, receivers than him in this draft.
True. Yeah, that's true. I just wonder.
Traits are fun. I mean, he ran a 4.34. He's 205 pounds.
I just wonder if. Yeah, no, I just wonder if the combine is going to move him into the like middle of the first round. Like, but I if you could get him there, and then I mean, he didn't say what you would get back in the trade. Yeah, you get a pick. You get a pick or two, but if you could do that, I'm not sure how he would have the patience to go down there and wait for him. But if he was confident he could get him there, yeah.
What do you think about the idea of taking a receiver?
I'm all for it.
You'd be fine with that?
All for it.
Even knowing that the targets might be limited?
Yeah. Yeah, I just think in this day and age, you need more than two weapons. And yeah, I would have no problem with it.
Okay. And the last one I wanted to talk about was, this is from Ryan Wilson at CBS Sports. Latu. I knew I was going to screw that name up. From UCLA. Medical concern here. He kind of walked away from football while he was at Washington, but
yeah, they retired him. I mean,
yeah,
he was never gonna play again. He was a neck thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but he was so good this past year at UCLA. Seems ready to play right now and make an impact.
I wonder how much, even though he's been cleared and that shouldn't be an issue, I just wonder if teams are going to shy away from him because of, I mean, they had a press conference where the Washington coach, I think it was 2 coaches ago, came out and said he's retiring from football and never be able to play again. He's a great kid, and we wish him well with whatever he tries. And the next year he's at UCLA tearing it up. But it's a concern. And you know how it goes in the draft when, even if a guy's been cleared and the medicals are all fine, it's like there's like, well, maybe we should just be a little careful here and not take him. So he's a really good player.
Yeah, he's excellent. He's one of, if not, like, you can make a case that he's the best edge rusher in the draft. He probably isn't, but
he's in a conversation.
Yeah, he's a first round pick. He's really skilled.
The Eagles, one thing Howie does and his scouts is if they're comfortable with the medicals, they won't listen to the noise. They'll take them.
Yeah. Now, and it's kind of funny because it came out at the combine. He at his interview that he got really into firefighting when he was away from football, which in this town is tricky.
Well, Grant Calcaterra did the same thing. So
yeah, it's funny. It's like it's actually more in line with Grant Calcaterra than firemen, because injuries kind of led them away from football and they got into firefighting.
Yeah, in Fireman Danny's case, firefighting led him away from football.
Yeah, and
into firefighting.
That's true.
When Kelce was talking about watching JP take a rep and saying, I'm not sure I can do this, and then the next guy came in and took a rep. He's like, yeah, I'm going to be okay. You think he was talking about Fireman Danny?
He was one of the names that popped up in my head.
That's a question. Next time I talk to Kelce, I got to ask him that.
Yeah, maybe get a keg near him, and he'll tell you all the players he was looking at that day.
I think there's always a keg near him. Even on his way out of the building yesterday, there was a keg near him.
It was funny. I wrote in my piece that, he's so beloved in this city, he'll never have to buy a beer in Philly again, which, knowing him, is a pretty nice thing to have.
Yeah.
What's been your we can move on from the mock draft. What's been your reaction to the reactions to the speech? Because yesterday we're in the room and everyone else is reacting to it, but we're kind of working.
Yeah.
Then we do the pod, then we do TV. It wasn't until last night I sat down and kind of like noticed that the whole NFL stopped for a little bit.
Yeah. And I think the thing that struck me the most was the number of non-football fans that were really moved by his speech and, just found it really compelling. Just people that have no interest in football. And that's how Kelce kind of transcended the game in a way that very few players have in this city. I mean, maybe like Doc, maybe there were a lot of non-football fans that liked Doc, but I think Doc was, as great as he was and great a guy and great for the city, I never sensed that non-football fans were particularly compelled by Brian Dawkins, or I just can't think of
I think like later in his career when he started talking about his mental health,
maybe.
Like I think a lot of people caught up with that.
After he retired, mainly.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It wasn't during his playing days.
Yeah. I really don't. I really can't think of anyone who really had such a. Like Allen Iverson, maybe. I think non-sports fans, non-basketball fans had opinions on him and were kind of.
Yeah, and he influenced like a culture too. It wasn't just basketball.
Very much. Yeah. But that's the thing that struck me was just how much, and I must have had like 20 people ask me because, we're both sitting in the front row there. So we're like, I don't know how many people asked me if I was crying because everybody was crying.
Yeah.
And, I'm thinking like there was one moment where he was like, he started talking about his relationship with his brother. And I feel this like tear coming down. I'm like some ESPN camera is going to catch this, and I'm going to be all over, the cycle for the next 24 hours. But it was quite a thing. And then we transcribed the whole thing last night, so we listened to it again and heard a lot of things, caught a lot of things I'd missed the first time around. So we have the video and the transcript up on our site, so check it out if you missed it.
Yeah, I think we talked about it on the Kelce pod, but one of my favorite passages was, and he's talked about this before, but he wrote it so eloquently, the just being in a locker room with a bunch of different people from different backgrounds.
Yeah.
And like it's funny that he feels that way. I've talked about this before. I kind of feel that way. Like, and I'm not even in the locker room to the level he is, right? Like that's his locker room. I'm an intruder. But I've even enjoyed that part of it in like my career is like meeting all these people from different backgrounds that I wouldn't have probably met otherwise.
Sure.
But just imagine then like they become like family to you, which is kind of a cool thing to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt.
And I like the way he did it, where he didn't have to even say who they were. You know,
Yeah.
it was from Yazoo City, Mississippi, a tight end from Stanford. Like I liked how he did that. It was good writing.
Yeah, he had some really nice touches in his presentation. I thought that really made it special, and man, I can't even imagine how much time he spent preparing it and getting it just right.
Well, he started writing it in 2016.
Yeah, it was something. It's going to be. I'm telling
When
you.
he started, it was a fireman from Canada. I'm trying to think.
Yeah.
An overrated defensive tackle from Notre Dame.
Trevor Laws?
Yeah. A Russell player journeyman.
Evan Mathis?
Yeah. I like this. We should go through all of his teammates and come up with these.
I counted up how many teammates he's had.
That's insane.
It's insane. And that's just like the guys who played in a game. Like there's no way to calculate how many he's, like if he included training camp and stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see if, what the Eagles do for him, what the city does for him. I think, was it Slay who tweeted out that they should have a day, like Philadelphia announced a Jason Kelce day?
Yeah, I like that.
I like that idea.
Statue?
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I'd be down with that. You'd have to put it somewhere. I mean, you could put it at the stadium, but put it in front of a bar somewhere in Delco. I think it might be more appropriate.
Put it out front of McGillen's?
I love McGillen's. Put it like, in front of like some corner bar. The league, it makes it very difficult to retire numbers because there's just not that many numbers. There's more flexibility now with who can wear what, but you have to think that's
I don't know how you can give it to anyone else.
Yeah. I can't even imagine anyone else in his locker. And how long is it going to take to clean out his locker?
Well, that's the thing I was thinking about. Like, they might just have to leave it for him. His locker has been overflowing for years now.
Yeah, that last week, Jordan Mulata who's right next to him, was showing us like there's like all these boxes all over the back of and Jordan was like, yeah, that's people hear Kelce say he likes lollipops on the podcast. He gets 30 boxes of lollipops the next day. He's like, these are all boxes for Kelce. There's just like boxes everywhere. And like none of them are.
A little bit of a hazard, to be honest with you.
It was a little dangerous back there. But yeah, be weird seeing.
The number thing's weird. Yeah, they can't give it away. And like, kind of same thing with Fletch and BG whenever they're done. And we didn't get it to Fletcher today. I do want to do that on the upcoming pod. We're running kind of almost the time here, but it's kind of seeming like he might hang him up. The number thing's tricky because you're right. You can't just retire all these numbers, but these are like all-timers who might play their entire, in Kelce's case, 13 years, Fletcher, 12, BG, we'll see, probably 15 with the team. Like, tough to give that out.
Yeah. Well, the Yankees have like 30 retired numbers. They got no numbers to give anyone.
It's no surprise the Eagles proposed to bring 0 into the mix. Need numbers.
Yeah. I know the competition committee was looking at fractions to make more numbers available.
Yeah. I should find Rich McKay at he's the competition committee chair. Find him at the owners' meetings and be like, Rich, now I have an idea for fractions.
Number 35.5.
It took him a while to give out Malcolm's number.
Stuff of giving out Shady's.
Yeah.
Never will. I wouldn't think. That was cool. Kelce talking about that snowball against the Lions.
Yeah.
We came out of the field, a snowless field, came down the tunnel into a blizzard. Yeah, what did he say? It was the most fun I've ever had on a football field. Like we were all kids again in the backyard.
Such a cool game. And it's one that like everyone who was around for that remembers. Like that was wild.
Yeah. Shady had 2 50-yard touchdowns in the fourth quarter.
He was the only guy who had traction for some reason.
Riley Cooper had a nice long catch.
Did he? I don't remember that.
Yeah.
All I remember is Shady.
58 yards. Yeah, just like falling down in the snow. That was a fun game.
Shady still check with you to make sure that number's not given out?
Every summer, first day of training camp. Rube, they give anybody 25? I always get a text from him.
It took them a little while to give out 27. It took them a really long time to give out 87.
Yeah.
They finally did that, which, like, we all love Brent, but, you know.
Yeah.
You can't retire Brent Selleck's number.
Right.
Have they given out 86? I think they did, right?
What did Julio wear? No, Julio
wore 80.
80, yeah. And he was the first receiver to wear a number in the 80s since Kevin Curtis. Is that right?
Oh, I don't know.
Because they're all single.
No, because Quez wore 80 his first year.
Did he?
Yeah. This is the longest I've ever gotten you to talk about numbers.
Yeah, I'm really into numerology.
It's your least favorite thing, but you seem to like it more when we're talking like when we're looking historically at it.
No, it's not the numbers. I'm just not into uniforms. I don't care what uniforms they wear. Throwbacks, green, white, purple.
Yeah, Joseph Ngata had 86.
Okay, well. Yeah.
Thanks, Alex.
Love Joseph Ngata.
Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, you can make a case 17 shouldn't be worn.
Yeah.
But it is.
Yeah.
And it has been.
Yeah, and a lot of it has to do with like if you change equipment guys, like the new guy might not have any connection to, because a lot of that's, I mean, it's probably coming from higher up, but I know with a couple guys, it's just the equipment guys just wasn't going to give it out. So it's an interesting thing. I don't know. We'll see.
It's just weird to think about 62, 91, or 55 being worn by a different player.
Yeah.
And you probably can't retire all three.
No, you can't. Did you want to talk about Mount Rushmore? Or are we going to hold that?
It's up to you.
Let's talk about it.
Okay, that's fine. You guys talked about this on Bird's Huddle a little bit the other day, that Kelce belongs on Eagles Mount Rushmore.
Has to be.
But like, so who's on that right now, in your opinion?
So to me, before Kelce, it has to be Bednarik, Van Buren, Reggie, and Doc. And like, I don't know. I mean,
who would have been the last one out before Doc?
Maybe Al Wister, maybe Tommy McDonald, maybe Quick or Harold, Donovan, Pete Pihos. You know, a lot of this was a bunch of Hall of Famers. Bob Brown wasn't really here that long. But I think before Kelce, I think those four are really in a class of their own.
Give me them again.
Van Buren, Bednarik, Reggie, and Doc.
Okay. So who is immovable? Can't move him.
Reggie.
I think Bednarik is too.
Reggie and Bednarik are probably 1 and 2. Well, before Kelce. But Kelsey's got to be on there. So to me, it comes down to Doc or Van Buren. And I got talked into Van Buren. I think Van Buren's the correct answer. He had
to be removed?
Career. I'm sorry?
To be removed or to be on it?
To be removed.
Okay.
He really only had 4 elite years. And they were incredible years. But, I mean, it was a short career. And, I mean, he made 5 all-pro teams in his first 6 years. There are also fewer players. I mean, there are only like 12 teams. So, yeah, your chances of making all-pro were 1 out of 12 instead of 1 out of 32. Or depending on the position, if there's more than one. But Van Buren in 45, 47, 48, and 49 he was the best running back or best back and probably one of the best players in the league. Obviously, Eagles won 2 NFL championships during that period in 48 and 49 and reached a third in 47. But he didn't have any other like really good years. He didn't play a lot of games some of those years. I'm not sure if he was healthy or what it was, but he still rushed for like 6,000 yards and 69 touchdowns in a short career. So the production was incredible, but it was brief. And, you're looking for a reason to knock one of these guys off. Doc played a long, long time. And, then you could go to championships and Doc didn't win one. Reggie didn't win one, but he's not going anywhere. He's probably the best defensive end, and I'm not going to call him an edge because he wasn't an edge. He was a defensive end who was just as good stopping a run as rushing the passer. Bednarik won 2, I think. I think his rookie year was 40, 48 or 49, but he won 60. I don't know. To me, it's between Doc and Van Buren, and I would knock Van Buren off. As crazy as that sounds.
Okay. So your 4 would be Reggie, Bednarik, Kelce, Doc.
Yes.
I like that it kind of spans generations nicely.
Yeah, I like the fact that I only covered 3 of them. Yeah, it's tricky. And I think those 5 are, significantly above anyone else, not to take anything away from there's other Hall of Famers and stuff, but yeah, it's quite a group. And to knock Steve Van Buren off, you've got to be, to me, Kelce is, if he's not the best center ever, he's in the top 3 or 4. Mm-hmm. So who'd you go with?
I don't want to say. I haven't put the thought into it that you did, so it sounds right to me. But yeah, I don't want to talk out of turn.
It was important for me to put some thought into something in this podcast.
I appreciate that
because I really didn't into the numbers.
That's all right. If you enjoy the Eagle Eye podcast, please do us a favor, rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, click that like button, subscribe there as well. Any final words, Rube?
No, we'll see you guys soon. Free agency next week. It's going to be an exciting week.
Yeah, my allergies are going crazy. I've been trying not to sneeze for most of this pod. I got to go sneeze. All right.
Oh, happy sneezing.
Take care, everyone. This has been Eagle Eye presented by Nissan.